I didn't expect the lottery win. Whoever does. It wasn't millions, nothing earth-shattering, but $300,000 after taxes is nothing to scoff at either. It was enough to breathe easier, enough to exhale. My husband and I stared at the number on the screen and then at each other, laughing like kids, because what else do you do when luck lands in your lap for once? We'd always lived within our means, no debt, no big indulgences. We planned to put most of it in savings, take a holiday we'd been putting off for years, and finally buy that new car we talked about since our old one began rattling like a tin can every time we went over 60. But most importantly, we wanted to share a piece of the pie with our children. Our twins, Lucas and Carolina. Same birthday, different worlds. Lucas is married with 2 small children under 5. Carolina is single, thriving, independent, not interested in kids, and that's always been fine by us. They're both in their late 20s, both finding their way, but in very different ways. We sat down and decided to give each of them $25,000, a significant gift, not life-changing, but enough to do something useful, pay off debt, take a trip, invest. We thought it was fair, equal, but then we looked at Carolina's student loans, $35,000, remaining from her undergrad and her master's. She'd done everything right, won a scholarship for her graduate studies, borrowed only what she needed for an internship in a very expensive city. She never complained, never asked for help, just quietly chipped away at the balance while working full-time. And then there was her eyesight. My daughter has lived her entire life in thick lenses. 12, not just legally blind without glasses, unable to cross the room. LASIK isn't even an option. She needs ICL surgery, something not covered by our national health care or private insurance. She's been saving slowly for years, budgeting every paycheck to get closer. And I realized I didn't want her to wait anymore. I didn't want her to carry that burden while I had the means to lift it. So we decided we'd pay off her loans and cover the $12,000 surgery. A total of $47,000 on top of her $25,000. She cried when I told her, not because she asked for it, but because she never expected it. She even asked if it was too much, if it would upset Lucas, if maybe we should scale it back. I told her no. I told her to take the money she saved for her eyes and use it to take a trip, go somewhere beautiful, somewhere bright. She deserves to see the world, literally, in a way she never could before. And then Lucas found out, and everything changed. Suddenly, I was playing favorites. Suddenly, I had a golden child. He called me, his voice bitter, asking why Carolina got more. I explained loans and surgery. Needs, not wants. I reminded him he got the old car when we upgraded a few years ago, worth about $6,000 at the time, and we paid for his driving lessons. Carolina didn't get anything then, not a complaint, not even a raised eyebrow. I reminded him that if he had gone to university, we'd have helped with the loans. But he dropped out in the 10th grade, chose a different path. I reminded him that if he needed eye surgery, we'd pay for that too. But he doesn't. I reminded him that this wasn't $47,000 in fun money for his sister. It was debt and healthcare. Necessary, overdue, burden she's carried for years. But he didn't want to hear it. You don't care about my kids, he snapped. You just love her more. And that broke something in me, because I do care. I love my grandkids deeply. I've changed diapers, rocked them to sleep, read bedtime stories until my throat went raw. I've been there. I am there. But they are not my responsibility. They are his. He chose to have them. He chose to build a life early. And I'm proud of him in many ways. He's a loving father, a committed husband, but I won't pretend he's entitled to more money just because he has mouths to feed. I'm setting aside savings for the kids, $10,000 each for education, plus interest, but I haven't told him that. Not yet. Not when he's acting like I owe him a payout. What I owe is fairness, not equality fairness. Because sometimes fair doesn't look like 50-50. Sometimes it looks like seeing your children's needs clearly and responding with compassion. If he had the same burdens, I would do the same. But he doesn't. He's not blind. He's not saddled with debt from chasing a better future. He made his choices, and Carolina made hers. And now he wants to punish her for needing help, as if her surgery is a luxury, as if her education was a mistake. He thinks giving him more would even things out, but it wouldn't. It would erase the difference between want and need. It would say that her suffering is worth less because she doesn't have kids. It would say that being responsible and independent and quietly strong means you get less, not more. And I won't say that. I won't punish one child to soothe the ego of another. He keeps calling, keeps pushing, keeps dropping snide comments in our group chat about Carolina being the golden child. And I keep ignoring them because I know what I did and why I did it. And I know my daughter's tears when she realized she could finally breathe were not the tears of someone spoiled. They were the tears of someone who has carried weight for far too long alone. And I was lucky enough to finally do something about it. What stings the most isn't even his entitlement, it's the way he's framing it. Like love should be tallied in dollar amounts, like affection has a balance sheet, like every family decision has to be a PR stunt for equal optics instead of real, thoughtful care. I raised Lucas to be better than this. I thought I did, at least. And I know how jealousy works, how easy it is to feel slighted when someone else gets what you don't, even if what they get is just an attempt to even out years of imbalance. But the truth is, Carolina never asked for anything. That's What separates them more than their career paths, more than their life choices? She didn't expect this. She didn't demand it. She didn't throw her children at me like moral hostages to extract money. Lucas came with an invoice calculating how much more she got and what he was owed to make it fair. But Carolina came with hesitance, with guilt, with a sense of gratitude so big it made me emotional. And what do you do with that? How do you explain to your son, your grown son, that being a parent doesn't mean caving to pressure or matching gifts like toys under a Christmas tree? That fairness sometimes means recognizing different lives need different kinds of help. He thinks it's favoritism. He thinks because she got more now, it erases every diaper I changed, every scraped knee I kissed, every lunch I packed for him, every time I told him I was proud. And maybe I should have seen this coming. Maybe I should have recognized the resentment simmering below the surface all those times he teased her for being the academic or rolled his eyes when we mentioned her job. Maybe I ignored the signs because I wanted to believe we were all fine, but now I'm seeing it. He doesn't see his sister as someone walking her own path. He sees her as competition, and that breaks my heart. I didn't raise them to keep score, but he's doing it anyway. His wife has started texting me too. Short, clipped messages. Not outright rude, but clearly aligned with Lucas. It must be nice to have debt paid off for free. Carolina's so lucky she doesn't have kids yet. Lucky, as if Carolina's path was easy. As if years of studying unpaid internships, lonely nights in cities far from home, saving for eye surgery with every extra dollar was some kind of joyride. As if not being able to drive for most of her adult life because she couldn't see well enough was lucky. And it's not just about the money. That's the part they don't get. It's about the years Carolina lived knowing she had no safety net. The way she moved through the world cautiously, making plans not knowing if she could count on support. It's about me finally being able to say, I've got you now. I didn't always have that chance. When they were growing up, we were paycheck to paycheck for a long time. Every cent counted. Every luxury was debated. I remember nights staring at bills, praying nothing unexpected would happen. I couldn't just hand over $35,000 to Carolina. Back then, I couldn't even afford to think about it. But now I can, and I did. And I don't feel guilty, but Lucas wants me to. Wants me to feel like I failed him, like by doing something good for his sister, I've somehow harmed him. But I didn't. He still got $25,000, more than I ever got at his age. More than most people see as a gift. He still got the old car, fully functional and worth a solid trade-in. He still got driving lessons paid for. He got weekends where we watched the kids, date nights with his wife that we babysat for. And still, he's counting her surgery and her loans as money he should have gotten. I can't reason with that. I won't try to. Because this isn't about logic. This is about ego. This is about identity. About feeling less than, and I can't fix that with a check. And the more I think about it, the more I realize this isn't just a parenting moment. It's a mirror. It's showing me the fault lines I didn't want to admit were there. That my children, my twins, who shared a womb and a birthday and 1,000 memories, somehow grew into adults who don't trust each other to receive love without keeping a ledger. That's what hurts. That he doesn't trust that if he were the one with need, I'd show up the same way. That he sees love as a transaction instead of a relationship. And I don't know how to fix that. I've tried to explain. I've tried to be calm. I've written out the numbers, showed him the rationale. But he doesn't want reasons. He wants retribution. He wants a matching gift. And that's not how this works. This isn't a game show. This isn't a legal will. This isn't some binding contract that demands balance down to the penny. This is family. And sometimes family means stepping in when one person needs more. Not because they're better. Not because they're loved more. But because life hit them harder in ways the other never had to deal with. Lucas never had to squint his way through school. Never had to wonder how he'd afford a city internship. Never had to fight for credibility in rooms full of men who assumed he didn't belong. Carolina did. And she did it all quietly, with grace. And now that I can help her, really help her, I did. And I would again. Even knowing the backlash. Even hearing the whispers. Even watching my son pull away. Because love, real love, isn't about making sure no one ever feels a moment of discomfort. It's about stepping up when it matters. And that's what I did. I think what's hardest now is realizing that this win, this beautiful stroke of luck that should have brought relief and joy, and maybe even some peace, has instead turned into a fault line cracking straight through the center of my family. It's strange to think that a windfall can feel like a burden, but that's exactly what it's become. A magnifying glass. A truth serum. A test. And while Carolina is grateful deeply, humbly, quietly grateful, Lucas is making it feel like I committed a crime. I wish he could have just said, "Thanks, Mom," and left it at that. I wish he could have taken the gift and the gesture at face value. But instead, he's assigning malice, rewriting history, suggesting that this one decision means I've loved her more all along, that I've been waiting for a chance to tip the scales. It makes me look back on his childhood, trying to find the cracks I missed. Was he always keeping score? Did he always feel slighted and I just didn't see it? Was I so busy trying to keep our heads above water when they were kids that I failed to notice resentment building in my son? Or is this newer reaction born out of stress, insecurity, financial pressure? A man feeling overwhelmed by the weight of his own choices and looking for someone to blame? Maybe it's both. Maybe it doesn't even matter. All I know is that I haven't heard from him in 3 days. No calls, no texts. The group chat has gone quiet except for Carolina checking in to say she's researching places to go for her trip. She's still hesitant, still worried she's done something wrong. I told her again she hasn't, and she keeps saying things like, maybe I'll just take a weekend trip nearby, or I don't have to spend the whole savings, but that's not the point. I want her to. I want her to go somewhere far, somewhere bright, somewhere she can open her eyes for the first time post-surgery and really see, not just the scenery, but her own life, her worth. I think maybe she's still waiting for the catch, for someone to tell her she's asking for too much, but she's not, and I'm not going to be the one who makes her feel like she is. I've spent years watching her carry burdens that weren't fair, and now I can take some of them off her shoulders. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't any parent? But Lucas sees that help not as care, but as favoritism. And I know it's partly because he's struggling. 2 small children, bills, stress. I don't minimize that. I don't dismiss it, but I also can't let it justify his behavior. Struggle doesn't make you entitled, and love doesn't come with receipts. The hard truth is that giving your children exactly the same thing in every situation doesn't make you fair. It makes you blind. It ignores who they are, what they've been through, what they need. Carolina needed help. Lucas wanted equality. And those aren't the same thing. He talks about, what about my kids? As if I've ignored them when I've spent years buying birthday presents, babysitting for free, helping them build furniture, bringing groceries when money was tight. But he means something else. He means cash. He means inheritance. He means entitlement. And the saddest part is I've actually been planning for the kids. $10,000 for each, growing with interest, waiting for them when they need it for school or training or whatever dreams they choose to chase. I just didn't say it yet because I wanted it to be a surprise, a happy one. But now I wonder if it would even matter. If he would just see it as another way I'm trying to control things, another manipulation. He's so convinced now that I'm playing favorites that nothing I do will be seen as honest. That's what this has done. It's poisoned the well. I tried to do something kind, and now every gesture feels like a trap in his eyes. And it hurts. Of course it hurts. And his mother. I don't want to be distant. I don't want to feel like I have to tread carefully around my own child. But I also won't apologize for helping someone who needed help. That's the line I'm not going to cross. I've always told my kids to stand up for what's right, even when it's not popular. I've taught them that fairness doesn't mean giving everyone the same thing. It means giving people what they need to succeed, to survive, to thrive. And now I'm being tested on that lesson myself. It's easy to talk about values when everything's theoretical. But when there's money involved, when there's family, when there's legacy, then you find out what people really believe. And I believe in helping without shame. I believe in giving without apology. And I believe that being a mother doesn't end when your kids turn 18. It just changes. Carolina didn't need a handout. She needed a hand. And I gave it. Not to buy her love, not to outshine her brother, but because I could, and I would again, even if it meant this silence, even if it meant the distance, because I know I did the right thing. And I hope maybe not now, but someday Lucas will see that too. I keep thinking about the moment I told Carolina the loans were gone. The way her shoulders dropped, her breath caught, her hand trembled just a little before she smiled, truly smiled. Not the polite one she wears in crowded rooms, or the quiet one she gives when she's too tired to talk. It was the kind of smile I hadn't seen in years, one untouched by burden. It was then I knew, down to my core, that I had made the right decision. That whatever came next, however Lucas reacted, however the family judged me, that smile was worth it. Because it wasn't just about the money. It was about the relief, the release, the unspoken years of weight she'd carried alone. And when she said, "Thank you, Mom, I can finally see my way forward," I felt something shift in me too. I felt like I was finally, truly mothering the way I always wanted to, without limits, without scarcity, without the constant fear that one child would feel slighted by love, expressed in different ways. But Lucas still hasn't come around. The silence has solidified into something cold. He hasn't brought the kids over. His wife is posting vague messages online about fairness and keeping receipts. And I see them. Of course I see them. We're all too connected these days to not see when someone wants to be seen. But I don't respond. I won't get pulled into digital fights or family drama disguised as subtweets. I've tried. God knows I've tried. I've written and rewritten messages, tried to explain again, tried to soften the blow with more context, more patience. But the truth is, he's made his mind up. And anything I say will just feed the fire. I know it's not really about Carolina's surgery or her loans. It's about the story he's told himself, that she was always the favorite, always the one we leaned toward. And maybe there were moments when she was easier. She was quieter, less combative, more self-contained. She didn't lash out when frustrated, she internalized. She didn't fight us on rules, she found ways to adapt. Lucas, on the other hand, has always worn his heart on his sleeve, his pride tightly bound around his choices. He dropped out of school not because he wasn't smart, but because he was angry, restless, itching for independence before he was ready to carry it. And when life pushed back, he dug in deeper. I watched him make those choices, and I held my tongue more than I should have. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't want to push him further away. I thought love meant letting him come to things on his own, but maybe he mistook my silence for indifference. Maybe that's part of what's bubbling up now. started thinking about legacy, not just in terms of money or things left behind, but in emotional imprints. What do I want my children to remember about me when I'm gone? That I was fair. That I saw them as individuals, not as a matching set. That I showed up when it mattered, even if the moment wasn't equal. That I wasn't afraid to make hard choices, and that I made them out of love, not favoritism. That I taught them that support should be thoughtful, not reflexive. That you don't give someone a parachute just because their sibling needed one. You give them what they need when they need it. And sometimes that means one child gets more now and another gets more later. That's life. That's parenting. That's love with its sleeves rolled up. And when my time comes, I hope they remember that. I hope Carolina lives her life a little lighter, a little freer, with eyes that finally see clearly, not just the world, but her own value. I hope Lucas eventually lets go of the scoreboard he's been clutching so tightly and remembers the love beneath it all. I hope he comes back with his kids, with his heart open, ready to talk. And if he doesn't, I'll still be here. I'll still love him, but I won't chase approval at the expense of doing what's right. I'm too old for that now, too tired, too done with bending to avoid other people's shadows. I made a choice. I stand by it, and if that makes me the villain in someone else's story, so be it.